Hello and welcome to today's video. In this video we're going to be looking at my 2013 Volvo V40. The V40 is a compact hatchback competing with cars like the Volkswagen Golf, Audi A3 and BMW 1 Series. Unlike its rivals, the Volvo targets the luxury market, boasting more standard features than others. The V40 is based on the Ford Focus and shares similar lines, although the V40 has aged better and has always been the better looking car. This particular model is the SE in grey, with 17-inch alloys and a cream white leather interior. The interior has aged very well. The materials used are of high quality with soft touch materials on areas you might touch like the dash and the door cards, and looks far more modern than the Ford Focus that it is based on. It also has some neat ambient lighting that is fully customizable. More on that later in the video. This particular model has xenon headlights in the front, LED lights in the back, and LED daytime running lights also. Under the hood of this D2 model is a 1.6 litre turbocharged diesel engine producing 113 brake horsepower. Underneath this panel is the pedestrian airbag. This was the first car to offer this feature, deploying an airbag over the windscreen to protect the pedestrian's head in case of a collision. It also has the Volvo City Safety System, which is a standard feature on all V40 models to help prevent low-speed collisions under 50 km an hour. The V40 won many awards through its life cycle for safety and scored 5 stars in the Euro NCAP tests. The boot is reasonably sized, offering 335 litres of capacity with the seats up and up to 402 litres of capacity with the seats folded down. The seats are easy to fold by pulling this lever inside, and they split 60-40, allowing for flexible cargo and passenger arrangements. The boot lining is hollow though, which may produce banging noises if items are not secured, which is annoying. Okay, let's start by turning the car on, which you do by pressing the clutch and pressing the start button. You can see there is one screen here and there's one main infotainment unit here. They both operate quite interesting and there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot of stuff that I didn't know that I had to research for this video. So let's have a look. So this is your gauge cluster screen, which actually is pretty amazing considering this is a 2013 model. It will start off by telling you who in the car has their seatbelt on or off. There is also another light up here that does like an airplane basically, or those really old Mercedes from the 80s. It actually tells you to fasten your seatbelt, and they can detect that for every single seat and see if someone is not wearing their seatbelt. Once you get going, this will disappear. You can also probably just press OK and that will disappear. So this is in the elegant setting. There's actually 3 different gauge cluster settings. So you operate this with this little stalk coming up here. So when you press the OK button, you get the menu, and then you can use the little controller here to swipe between the different screens. We're going to start off with the themes. So as I mentioned, that one is the elegance. That one shows you your engine temperature as well as your revs, and it's just pretty basic and elegant kind of name. Then you have eco mode, and there's a lot to talk about with this one. So as you can see, it goes green to match that kind of eco theme, and over here on this side you have your eco guide. Now the way this works is this this here, the long bar, that's how economically you're driving. So once you're using low revs and driving economically, this will go up, and then this is your instant and this is your average. So once you start driving better and better, this is going to go up and up until you get to the top. And there's also a little E that appears. I'll insert a picture here. When that appears, that literally, I couldn't figure out what that meant. Went through the owner's manual. Turns out that's the car just basically saying that you're driving really well, really economically, and just basically saying like, well done, yeah, like you're driving well. And yeah, when you turn on cruise control in this screen, and the same in elegance, a little icon will appear here, and whatever speed you set will appear here basically. The reason I'm mentioning this now is because the next screen is completely different. This is the most different out of all of them, and that's the performance screen. As you can see, it looks amazing actually, it looks really cool. So it changes straight away. So at the moment because we have cruise control turned on, which you can tell by that little indicator there, it's actually given us the option for cruise control, and whatever speed we set it to, it will show it up here. Obviously you have your main tachometer here with your speed, and you have your power gauge of how much power you're using and how much power is available. However, if you turn off cruise control, it will go back to just show you the engine temperature, which is pretty cool. There's also other stuff you can do. You have contrast modes, which in the contrast, although it will kind of adapt based on how bright it is outside the screen. As you can see, it kind of dimmed itself there a second ago. You have your service status, you have your trip computer reset, but you can also just press the reset button if you want to. You have your messages for anything that might be wrong with the car, and that's pretty much it. Although it is worth mentioning that if you had more options, such as detecting traffic signs, they would appear here, or even if you had the optional satellite navigation, it would actually show up where you're meant to be turning right here, which again, back for 2013 and 2012, like really amazing. This has become common now, but only in the last 2 or 3 years, and this car is now 10 years old, which is really amazing. Now you have your controls here. So cruise control, this is the button to turn it off and on, and then you press it on to engage it, and then you press plus to set the speed, and then you can use up and down to do it. You also have this button here, which is limit, and you can set whatever you want this limit to be on the car. So if you don't want to exceed a certain speed, you can do that. You also have your play, you have your volume controls here, you have your mute switch, exit button, and then you have your buttons here to skip forward and skip back a song. Now, there's a lot to talk about with this screen. There's a lot of features. So let's start off basically with the basics, I suppose. Here you have your speed. You can turn it on and off, but basically that means that the passengers can see the speed of the car. You have your heated seats indicator here. So the heated seat button is here at the bottom. So once you turn it on, it will turn on the heated seat and show you the level, obviously. You also have automatic dual zone climate control, which you can control from here. You can do whatever, basically I might have to zoom out here. You can set left side, oh, no, wrong button, left side, right side, and it will highlight it, and you can change the temperature. So this is the basic radio feature. You also have media, which controls your Bluetooth. I turned my Bluetooth off for the moment as I'm filming. However, it's really good at picking it up, and even though I have the newest iPhone, it still pairs perfectly and even shows me where I parked the car, because every time you turn on the car, the Bluetooth will automatically pair to it, even if you're not playing music. So if you're listening to the radio and your phone starts ringing, it will show up in the infotainment system and you can answer. Same if you get a message and you want to dictate, even if you're not on the media control, you can do that. You can press dictate and it will pause the radio. There is a microphone right up here. I don't know if you'll be able to see it because it's kind of dark, but there's actually a microphone right here, which means that hands-free talking and calls is amazing. The quality is amazing. I couldn't work out why it was so good, but that's because there is a microphone here which the car uses instead of the phone microphone. And obviously whatever song you're listening to will show up the title, the album title, even artwork sometimes. This one here, my car, this is where you control a lot of the stuff. So for example, when you're in this performance mode, you're not actually in sport mode. You can activate sport mode by going into My Volvo and pressing OK, and there you can see you have a button for basically the traction control, and if you deselect it, a little icon appears here. As you can see, it says DTC Sport, which means basically that the traction control is a sport setting. It will allow a little bit more slip. Not really as relevant in a front wheel drive car, but it's nice that's there. You also have some other things. So there is a sensor array here to stop you crashing, and you can turn that on and off here. So basically at speeds under 50, and this has worked for me before when someone has pulled out at me, it does work. it will detect that something's in front of you and it will automatically brake, and a message will come up in this screen to tell you that that's why the car stopped and that's what happened, and you press OK and you can choose going. This feature is also brilliant, reduced guard. So this one will, as it says, temporarily deactivate the alarm sensors. Why would you want to do that? Well, if you are leaving a dog or something just for a second, or even a child, and you're just running in somewhere and you don't want the alarm going off, this will make sure that the alarm doesn't go off, basically. The car also has bending headlights, which is amazing. So when you turn the wheel, it will adjust the headlights. If you want to turn that off for whatever reason, you can't do that here. You also have your trip statistics, so you have your fuel consumption. I've done a lot of town driving today, so you can see it's 5.7 liters per 100. Here's the miles per gallon, whatever it is. But usually on my motorway driving every day, I'll be averaging about 4.5 liters per 100, but you can measure it all here. Here you have your eco driving guide, in case we want to learn more about driving economically. It will tell you, it's just basically click on it and it will give you a little bit of a thing. This used to be really common back in 2013 when eco was like the new greatest thing, and yeah, basically gives you all guides. And you also have, this car has start stopped, so you can turn that on and off here. You can see that's the button there. So essentially, if you're stopped, if you're driving and you stop and you put the car into neutral, the car will automatically shut the engine off. So when you're at a traffic lights, for example, you will you'll see this little icon will appear. It's like this, I'll insert a picture here. It's like this little green icon, and the engine is just off. And then the minute you put your foot back on the clutch, the car turns itself back on. It's actually quite handy for saving fuel. But if it does annoy you for whatever reason, you have a nice hard button there to turn it on and off. You also have a button here to turn off the parking sensors, and this is the camera button. So when you press the camera, you can see the view behind you. Now I need to zoom in here. You can see that there is this little symbol here that says P, parking sensor, with a cross. That doesn't mean that the parking sensors are broken or not working. I couldn't figure out for a long amount of time. It just means that it can't detect anything behind you, so there's nothing there. But when there is something behind you, that little thing disappears and it will show you how close you are. It also shows you the steering angle, which is really, really great. You can do zoom in on the camera in case you want to zoom in on a particular spot, which is fantastic. And obviously this turns on automatically when you're so if I put the car into radio mode, and if I take the camera there, if I shift the car into reverse, you'll see that the camera automatically appears. And then when you shift it back into neutral, after a few seconds or after you start driving off, it will go back to whatever screen you were on. You also have a telephone section here. Again, it won't work now because I've disconnected the phone, otherwise it will interfere with the filming. However, not only can you use this numpad to type in a number, which is very old-fashioned, you can actually press the phone book and it will show you all of your phone numbers from your phone on there. So you can't do that. But in this day and age, you can use Siri or Google or whatever to make your phone calls for you. But if you wanted to do that, you can. And yeah, that's pretty much it for that. But there's loads of more customizable things. You have endless settings on how you want your lock settings, if you want the doors to lock when you set off, if you don't, if you want the mirrors to fold when you lock the keys. You can set how long you want the approach lights to stay on. Let's pause for a second. Remember that ambient lighting I showed you earlier on? You can actually control it in the screen by going to light settings, and ambient light colors. You have plenty of colors to choose from, and it changes the colors for both front and back, which is something I didn't know when filming this. Anyway, back to the video. After you unfortunately press the button. So it's not like, what I don't like is, this is the key, and essentially you have to press this light button anytime you want the lights to stay on. So if you want to open the car and you want the lights on, you have to press open and then lights on. So it's not like some other cars like BMW and Audi where you press the unlock button and the lights automatically turn on and stay on for a couple of seconds. You have to first unlock it and then turn on the lights. And I have looked at the settings, there isn't a way to turn it off, so that is a bit annoying, but it is there. And you can control how long the lights stay on after you press that button. With this with the key, basically, and with the settings. You have loads of other stuff, like you can turn off that speed display I showed you, you can reset settings, absolutely loads of options. You can change your climate controls, your audio system, everything is controlled from there. Okay, now let's go for a little drive. Now I know it's getting dark outside, you can hopefully still see me okay. Now let's talk about the driving experience. So overall, the car is really smooth. Here we are cruising at about 50 kilometers per hour. The rough roads create a lot of tire noise, which you can probably hear. But overall, it's pretty quiet and refined. It can be really, really good fun as well. Although this car does share its platform with the Ford Focus, there's been a lot of rework to where the Focus feels a bit more comfort orientated, but this one feels a bit more sporty. It feels really, really well planted, and even when I'm throwing it around quite hard, and this is a diesel with a heavy engine, it feels pretty good. This one is the least powerful, smallest displacement diesel that was offered, which is a 1.6 litre diesel, 120 horsepower. But if I give it some juice here, pulls really nicely, really, really smooth power delivery. I will say for a diesel it does something that's quite weird, where it kind of lacks on power really down low, which you would expect the opposite to be. But around from about 1 to 2,000 RPM, there seems to be a bit of a dead zone where you put your foot down and nothing happens, but then the car gets into its own and then you have to kind of change gear. I'm not that familiar with diesels, my first diesel, but you do have to change up a gear quite early on. So if you follow the gear shift recommendations from the car, it will tell you that about 1,800 RPM, change up a gear, change up a gear, change up a gear. So sometimes you'll be going maybe about 60 kilometers per hour, 70 kilometers an hour, and it'll be asking you to go into fifth, maybe even sixth gear. But yeah, it's really, really happy if you're in the right gear, especially third or fourth gear. The car really wants to pull. You can feel it pulling like a train, like a diesel is supposed to. And yeah, now we're on slightly quieter roads. I'll just stay quiet for a second. So that's 50 kilometers per hour. You can see it's very quiet inside. You don't really hear any of the diesel engine. It just feels nice. It actually has quite a nice sound to it. I'll see if I can drop a gear here and give you a bit of a for a diesel. It sounds really, really nice. It has a really nice tone to it. It doesn't sound like a tractor. It kind of has a really nice sound to it. The gearbox is smooth, really easy to get into gear. There isn't any plainness, but I will say that this particular gear stick, the one that the lit up one, it does kind of have this kind of weird feeling, sometimes a bit like a loose feeling, but other than that, like, really easy to get into gear, really enjoyable. It can be quite tough to drive it in bumper to bumper, which I sometimes have to do, only because the clutch can be quite heavy compared to my last car, which was a Polo. Like, the clutch is quite a lot heavier, and you don't realize it when you're just driving normally on a country road like I am now. It feels great, but obviously during bumper to bumper traffic you will feel that. And I will say, if you're probably going to do like a lot of bumper to bumper and you're not really going to drive it on the open roads like I do, I would probably recommend going for the automatic. It's just going to be a lot easier on your feet. But overall, drives it really, really well. As I mentioned, the only real downfalls this car can rattles coming from places, but again, it's not exclusive to this particular car. I'm going to assume that because it is based on that Ford platform where they kind of had to share parts to make it more feasible. A lot of the stuff obviously is from the cheaper Ford Focus, and so there is like a bit more rattling and stuff that you would expect from a Volvo. But in terms of the actual build quality, materials, the comfort, the way the car feels and drives, you can very clearly tell that this is Volvo's own car. It doesn't have anything shared with the Focus in terms of how it feels. Even the looks, like I mentioned, it does kind of, it can have that similar, apologies by the way, the road's really rough around here. You can probably hear, once we get out to here, you can see how it's supposed to sound normally. Yeah, I actually forgot what I was saying. Oh yes, the Ford Focus, although they do look kind of similar, not really. On the interior it's completely different. Exterior wise, the Volvo has aged much better in my opinion. It looks like they kept the same body style from 2013 up until I think 2018 or 2019, which I think is a testament to how good the design was of this car. There wasn't really any exterior changes made. Like they replaced the xenon lights with LED lights and other stuff like that, but there isn't like you know, like you see the Focuses and there's like 3 different generations and they all quite different. Even on the inside they all look quite different. The Volvo kind of stayed the same, and the reason it stayed the same is because it was really good from the start. And there's other upgrades you can make to this car if you wanted to make it more modern, but honestly probably don't need to. This car is really, like, as you can see at the moment my hands are off the wheel. I know you can't see, but the car is dead straight center. Even though I'm the 3rd owner, it's done 150,000 kilometers. It feels solid, smooth. I've never really had any mechanical issues with this car. And overall, I'd say if you're looking for something that's really, really comfortable, really safe, and still good fun to drive and maybe economical, I would look for one of these. I'd go for the diesel if you're going to be doing a lot of long distancing, just because around town it's not the best mileage or MPG or kilometers per litre, but on the motorway it's brilliant, and obviously it's still quiet, and you have that confidence that these diesel engines can just go longer in terms of like how many kilometers you can do with them. For someone like me who would probably do 60,000 kilometers per year, that's really important to me, that I don't have to worry, oh, like I've reached a certain mileage and now the car is not going to be as good.